Russian commander killed. Great success from the Ukrainian army. A commander is very important for the faith of an army. Experienced and successful commanders are not trained in a week. They train for almost years. They risk their lives in the wars and gain experience. The loss of a commander is both a moral loss and a material loss for states. Because if the commander dies, the army loses morale. At the same time, the money spent on the training of that commander disappears. Many Russian commanders lost their lives in the Russia-Ukraine war. Recently, another Russian commander was destroyed by the Ukrainian army on the front line. In a moment, we will analyze the latest developments regarding the destruction of the Russian commander. The Ukrainian army, which carried out an exciting operation, achieved a significant success. There is a great sadness in the Russian sources. So, what are the details of the operation in which the Russian commander was destroyed? Let's take a look at the latest developments together. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss the Pioneers Daily Map update reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my team by using the Super Thanks button below the video. Let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer Reports. The operation was carried out against the commander of the Russian Army's Elite Air Assault Brigade. Colonel Andriy Kondrashkin has long commanded significant units of the Russian Army in the Ukrainian area. Kondrashkin, the commander of the 31st Airborne Storm Brigade of the elite Russian soldiers, took part in the siege of Mariupol in the early days of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. According to Ukrainian sources, Colonel Kondrashkin served throughout the war in the areas of a strong offensive of the Ukrainian army. In particular, he was in charge of the Russian troops on the Zaporizhia and Bakhmut front line, where the Ukrainian army counterattack was furious. In fact, we have to say that he performed successfully during his tenure. Russian Colonel Kondrashkin moved to the region with his troops to prevent the destruction of the 72nd Brigade, which last served on the Andriivka front and supported the defense of Andriivka. The 72nd Brigade on this area had lost almost half of its strength during the Ukrainian offensive. There was a disconnect between the teams of the 72nd Brigade. The platoons were acting without connection with each other. It is very important that the troops move together and coordinate during the war. Disorganized troops pose a great threat to the enemy. Divisions outside of tactics are of a great threat. The 72nd Brigade faced such a situation in the Wind City of Andriivka. The Russian 72nd Brigade had lost its capacity to defend the area it has and suffered many casualties in the face of the Ukrainian army's attacks. At the same time, ongoing offensive in the area prevented the remaining Russian troops from regrouping. Colonel Kondrashkin took action to prevent the remaining troops from falling into the hands of the Ukrainian army. Colonel Kondrashkin, who took a position with his troops south of Andriivka, was trying to gather the scattered Russian soldiers. The pressure of the Ukrainian troops in the region was continuing. As you may remember from our map reports, Andriivka is now under the control of the Ukrainian army. However, the security of the Ukrainian troops in the region must be ensured. New defenses fortifications will be built there. Therefore, the villages and the small settlements around Andriivka need to be cleared of the Russian soldiers. In this context, Ukrainian Special Forces soldiers continue their operations around Andriivka. In recent days, Ukrainian Special Forces have advanced to the areas where the Colonel Kondrashkin and Russian troops are located. There are many abandoned buildings in this area. In fact, according to the claims of local sources, we can say that Colonel Kondrashkin and his troops are also conducting a secret operation here. Because at the moment, there is no chance for Russian troops to make new progress in the region. Therefore, the goal of the Colonel Kondrashkin and his troops was to gather the Russian soldiers scattered in the region. However, Ukrainian Special Forces noticed Colonel Kondrashkin and its soldiers. They immediately took action and started to follow the colonel and his units. Colonel Kondrashkin and the Russian soldiers under his command did not notice the Ukrainian Special Forces soldiers. Colonel Kondrashkin and his units, who were looking for Russian soldiers in the Wind City of the derelict village, were surrounded by the Ukrainian Special Forces. In this area, Ukrainian Special Forces were in pursuit for a long time. When Colonel Kondrashkin realized that Russian soldiers were not there, they gave the order to leave the area. That's when the Ukrainian Special Forces attacked. Colonel Kondrashkin and his troops were cornered. Ukrainian Special Forces were violently attacking the area. Colonel Kondrashkin and his troops tried to fight back. However, the attacks of the Ukrainian special forces was quite furious. The small number of Russian soldiers and Colonel Kondrashkin were powerless to resist the attack. In fact, there were Russian troops at points close to the area where Colonel Kondrashkin and Russian soldiers were trapped. However, the Russian troops in the region did not come to their support. If the Russian troops in the region had come to their support, it would have been a disaster for the Ukrainian special forces. But they did not. Therefore, this operation was a major disaster for the Russian armed forces. Colonel Kondrashkin was killed during the operation of the Ukrainian Army Special Forces. The information we have given you so far is derived from reports compiled from local sources. Official sources did not make any statements about the death of the Russian Colonel Kondrashkin. They only confirmed that Colonel Kondrashkin was killed. The statements that Kondrashkin was killed came from the Alexander Khodorkovsky, commander of the Russian Vostok Battalion, who fought on the Donetsk front line and was driving out of the village of Yorkhin. Khodorkovsky made the following statements about the incident in question. We became friends with Andrei while fighting hands in hands, and today we were deeply hurt by the news of his death. We send our condolences to his family, friends, and comrades in arms. The death of the Russian Colonel Kondrashkin caused great shock and sadness in the Russian army. Many Russian sources are publishing condolence messages over the death of the Colonel Kondrashkin. The Ukrainian 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, which continues operations in the Wind City of the Andriivka region, also made statements about the latest operations. The following statements were used in the statements made through the Telegram channel. In 2 days, the 3rd Assault Brigade eliminated the enemy brigade intelligence chief, 3 battalion commanders and almost all of the infantry of the 72nd Brigade, other officers and a significant amount of equipment. As of now, the fighting continues. Our units continue to consolidate the new operation. The recapture of Andriivka is the key of success in the directions. We're all paying a high price for the results of these battles, and the blood of each of our fighters will be paid only in blood. The operations of the Ukrainian army around Bakhmut have become quite critical. We expect that the Ukrainian army will advance further in the region in the coming days. What do you guys think? How do you think Colonel Kondrashkin's death will affect the Russian army? Do you think the Russian brigades spread in the region can recover? Do you think the Ukrainian army will advance further? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.